Welcome, one and all, to the KOE Nation, folks. And it is my regret to inform you that the great Jay Briscoe has passed away. Yes, folks, this is not an occasion that calls for the same verbose introduction because this is a somber occasion. This is a somber occasion not only for the Briscoe family, but this is a somber occasion for all fans of tag team wrestling. And for this somber occasion, I am joined by my indomitable broadcast partner, the one, the only,
Tony G. Like, share, subscribe, folks. Yeah, it's not a happy occasion, but we felt obligated to at least make mention of the passing of one of the modern era's true trailblazing, consistent, gritty, just all around talented workers, wrestlers, tag team aficionados, Jay Briscoe. Just what an absolute mind for the business. What a worker, and just dedicated all around to his performance inside and out of the ring. Just one of the best that a lot of people who only watch mainstream may have never even heard of, which is an absolute travesty, especially given the banner year he's coming off of in 2020.
I know. And it's something we'll cover a little later, is that he did just have a spectacular year. Like, I'll probably just later on play the three of us discussing what an incredible year he had. So it's truly unfortunate. It's just, God, what could have been.
Yeah, yesterday around 5 o'clock, he was involved in a head-on collision car crash, which sounds like the driver of the other vehicle, who was hopped up on some sort of substance, hit him head on, and with Jay were his two daughters. One sounds like it's 50-50 whether or not she will be able to walk again, and the other was in critical condition, but is now kind of coming out of it. So it sounds like at least he would be the only fatality in that car. I believe the driver of the other vehicle also perished, but I'm not really concerned about that.
Yeah, nobody is. Like, well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a tragedy because, like, this is a guy that was doing it right. He wasn't drinking and driving, because, like, whenever you hear about an auto accident, that's kind of the first thing you think of. But no, like, Tony, as much as wrestlers travel, it is shocking how little you hear about them dying in travel. Yeah. Like, it's very, and so I figured this is going to, like, is this going to be an exception to the rule? But no, it was somebody that was allegedly under the influence of substances that hit him, and that's just makes it all the more tragic. That, like Tony, to say that you were a fan of the Briscoe brothers would probably be a bit of an understatement.
Yeah, they're one of those teams that they weren't in a promotion that I got to watch frequently. They were hidden on Ring of Honor. But this last year, 2022, I got to watch a lot of their work, and not just their in-ring stuff, like their promo work. And I never really got to watch a lot of their promo work, but they had, not just in the ring, they had a banner 2022 inside and out. That's what I mean. Like, they were cutting some great promos and being buried while doing it. That's the ultimate travesty here, is the swan song of the team, the Briscoe brothers. What a great year they had, and it was buried on a show and promoted last minute. It's such a travesty to think that the swan song was only seen by so many people who knew of their work, and that's why they wanted to see it. Because it's not like Tony Khan and AEW and Ring of Honor were promoting them, because they were too afraid to. We can speculate all we want. They were afraid to bring the Briscoes on because of some controversial tweets a long time ago, and or because, frankly, the tag team division in AEW is kind of run by a select few people, and they don't like the competition. Pick the choice you want. But regardless, the Briscoes had a trilogy with FTR this past year that was just so monumentally good. It made me only really truly think about tag team wrestling when it came to time to pick my favorite match of the year. And all I could do was think about tag team wrestling. And 3 of those matches included the Briscoes. 4 of those matches included FTR, and one of them was including the Usos. So it was a really great year for the best tag teams in the business. And the Briscoes were wholeheartedly a part of that. And they had just such a great year being able to be seen by the people who were at least able to find them and were aware of the great work that they've been putting in. Not just this year, not this past year, but for an entire career. I actually do have Jay's accomplishments. I wanted to go through these because
Yeah, please do.
it's a lot. Two-time champions, two-time tag team champions in Combat Zone Wrestling, Match of the Year in Extreme Rising in 2012, Moment of the Year in 2012, Full Impact Pro Championship with Mark, tag team one time, 3-time tag champs with Mark in Game Changer Wrestling, 1-time Hog tag team champ, 1-time Impact Wrestling tag team champ, Jersey All Pro Wrestling 1 time, NWA Crockett Cup with Mark,
Oh, nice.
Japan 1-time IWGP Tag Team Champion, and a never open weight 6-man Tag Team Championship twice with Mark and Toro Yano. NWA Wildside 1-time Tag Team Champion. Premier Wrestling Federation 1-time U.S. Heavyweight Championship and a championship tournament win. Pro Wrestling Illustrated ranked number 7 of the top 500 wrestlers in the PWA 500 in 2015. Pro Wrestling Noah GHC Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship with Mark once. PWU Tag Team Championship once with Mark. I'm not even going to say Mark because just assume it's with Mark. Real Championship Wrestling 1-time tag team and 1 tag team championship tournament. Ring of Honor World Championship. That's a solo.
Wow.
2 times he held the Ring of Honor World Championship. He held the 6-man tag team championship of Ring of Honor once with Bully Ray and Mark Briscoe. Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship 13 times, obviously, with Mark. 13. And they were the reigning defending Ring of Honor champions up until this untimely accident. Sorry, almost done here.
There's more.
Yeah, there's a little more. Ring of Honor year-end award 7 times. Got the CM Punk Award in 07, Tag Team of the Year in 07, Feud of the Year in 07, Tag Team of the Year in 2019, Feud of the Year 2019, Tag Team of the Decade in the 2010s, Tag Team of the Year in 2021, and Ring of Honor Hall of Fame class of 2022. 2 CW Tag Team Championship once, and USA Extreme Wrestling 1 time Tag Team Championship, and in 2007 Wrestling Observer Newsletter Tag Team of the Year with Mark.
Boy, howdy.
I know these are the independents.
A life well wrestled.
This guy, like, there's a lot, like, even for an independent circuit, there's a lot of pretty fantastic accomplishments on that list.
You know, like, now, Tony, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, this is what Jay Briscoe meant to me, honestly. Like, now, this is going to be a very recent thing, and it's going to seem kind of like cheating, but it's really not because, all right, T, you know me pretty well. It's fair to say there's been some trials and tribulations in my personal life, okay?
Indeed.
That's been going on. And when I watched that double dog collar match between FTR and the Briscoes, for about, like, now granted, you know, your problems always come back to you, but for about 15 glorious minutes in the middle of that, all the problems melted away. All of it just went away, and I was just enjoying the Briscoes versus FTR. And it's very rare that a wrestler can actually do that. And when they can, it's pure art. Like Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar was a great example of, like, just for a few minutes, all your problems were just gone. The first time Sting came back to the ring, like, for a few minutes, your problems were gone. Steve Austin versus Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. For a few minutes, your problems were just gone. And the Briscoes and FTR were able to capture that beautiful magic of your problems have just faded away. And that's what I call the magic of pro wrestling. And Jay Briscoe truly understood that. And so, like C.S. Lewis said, I will celebrate the death of no man because I too am a part of mankind. So, in some way, I too am diminished in his passing. And this is one of those that every fan of tag team wrestling is now diminished in his passing. And what you were talking about earlier, T, is something that I've noticed being echoed in a lot of different videos where people are talking about this. There's this anger. There's this feeling of injustice that was done, that he was held back and held off he was more talented than the opportunities that he was given. And whenever that happens, there's going to be a sort of resentment from not just the general public, but from people. And in this instance, I feel it's a little even justified because honestly, he was a very Christian man, and he said some things in 2010, which was a different world. Oh my God! Like all of us, like we were all in a different universe in 2010.
People like to pretend that things don't change year by year, but we're talking about 12 years ago, and the culture changes drastically year by year.
Yes, but he's since apologized and all that. So but now here's the thing: this man was very Christian. So if you're a fan, you can take solace in the fact that he was right with God when he met his maker. So that is something that you don't understand how precious that is until you're confronted with it. And so it's that is at least something to take solace, that he was right with God when he met his maker. But that's the fact that these controversies kept him off of television was very unfortunate. It was very unfortunate, but and think of all the great matches, or just having done those even on AEW Dark, so people could have seen more people could have seen it. But now here's something, Tony.
Well, not just that, but there was a run during Jericho's Ring of Honor World Championship reign where he was wrestling Ring of Honor former world champions on a weekly basis. And once the well ran dry on available talent, he started wrestling lower tier title champions like Colt Cabana. There's no reason they couldn't have brought Jay Briscoe on to have a singles match with Chris Jericho, being a former world champion twice in the promotion, considering he was available and they were booking him in Ring of Honor. That's something they could have done and should have done. But this is just verifiable proof of keeping someone off the TV that might outclass some of the people that are pushed in a more prominent role. But I'm just spitballing here.
Well, no, I think another thing that we don't like about it is especially now that he's passed, there's no way there's no comeback story, because we all this is one of the few times when you could just blatantly see someone's being held down despite their talents for reasons unrelated to their talent. And nobody likes that. And we all were hoping for eventually they're just going to wrestle their way out of it. They're going to be so good that they're going to come through. Now, Jay, the problem is with the Briscoes.
I think they did that. I think they did that in 2023. That's what's so frustrating here. That is what's so absolutely frustrating, because I think that the year that they had in 2022, they were geared up for a solid 2023. I think that they were right on the cusp. If they couldn't prove themselves last year and get onto a mainstream AEW show, being within the same company, it was never going to happen. I really felt like it was going to happen in 2023. I was ready to proclaim them my dark horse favorite for tag team of the year. I was ready to give them match of the year. I was hoping to see it against the Bucks. That's a former rivalry.
Oh, dude, opening that envelope for this 2023 year in review is going to be brutal, because I'm betting you gave something to the Briscoes.
Yeah,
that's going to be fucking brutal, because
it is. It's brutal, but you can't change it. Like you said, there's no comeback here, because this is ultimate, and there's no.
I mean, I was about to say, Jimmy becoming AEW World Champion would maybe be a sort of kind of actually not really consolation prize, because Jay's still dead. You know, there's no like but like yeah, I think Jimmy going on a singles run and like Jay proved they can do singles.
Mark,
Oh,
you're mixing your Jimmy tag team, Jay and Jimmy, not Mark and Jay.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, I know what you meant, but
okay. I'm sorry.
Apparently, Jay is a popular name for tag team wrestlers. Who knew?
Yeah, but no, I do think they do need. God damn it! Like, sorry, I keep doing that, but yeah, I think Mark going on a solo run would probably be unnecessary. Or does him and FTR do a 6-man run with the 6-man belts?
I think that'd be a great way to at least honor what they did in 2022. If you just gave Mark and FTR, hell, just give them one match for the 6-man. They don't even have to win it. I think that.
I kind of think they do. I think the fans are riot.
I think they've all earned that.
I think give them the 6-man tag belt. Well, also like. Again, I'm just like, again, it's way too soon to start like, fantasy booking Mark back into things. But he's got his morning. He's got to bury his brother. He's got a lot to do. But when he does eventually come back, I think like something that the fans would thirst for, would yearn for, would want to see, if that's something he wants to do. If wrestling is even still within his heart and his soul anymore, because you never know. Something like this could kick that right out of you. Because, I mean, fuck, man. Like every time you reach over for the tag, you're expecting to see your brother and he's not there anymore. Okay. Like that's going to fuck with you.
That's just it. And 90% of the stuff that I listed off a second ago had that precursor with Mark Briscoe. So it's a career of a true career of a team. And that's why they were as fluid and as good as they were, not just as wrestlers, but as a unit, because they understood tag team psychology. They understood protecting your image. They understood, like you were saying, getting lost in the moment. That's an artist knowing their paintbrush and their palette and knowing how to make the people who will see your art appreciate it even more. And that's what they were capable of. And you saw that tenfold this past year with great teams like FTR. So it's such a shame, again, that not as many people got to see the finished art project when it was all said and done. But I have a hope and a feeling that more people will come to appreciate their work, posthumously. Unfortunately, they didn't see it beforehand, but at least they'll be seeing it now because you're going to hear about this.
Well, just a thought, like FTR and Mark come together as sort of like a New Day type thing where they can do the Freebirds gig, where you have 3 of them now. So any 2 of them can wrestle if one of them goes down with an injury. And I think that like FTR would probably love working with them. It would be a great honoring of that legacy. C, it gives them something going forward. And guess what? Every single time you see Mark win a tag belt with either one of them, it's going to be a huge emotional moment.
Yeah.
So, and Jimmy too. And Jimmy too.
Yeah, and Jimmy too. One of those Ring of Honor World Championships was won against the former Kevin Steen, now known as Kevin Owens. I actually wanted to read this. This is Kevin Owens' words on the passing of Jay. Again, this is Kevin Owens speaking. I spent hours reading what people had to say about Jamin last night, his real name. Mm-hmm. I watched some of our matches together. I went back and read our last text to each other. I'm so heartbroken for his family. Every single one of them I met over the years because they all stuck together like glue, all special human beings that would give you the shirt off their back in a heartbeat if you needed it. That's who he was. There are a few people in this industry I consider pillars in my own career, people I truly feel I would not be where I am today had I not encountered them. Jay and Mark Briscoe are 2 of those pillars. In 2007, they had the opportunity to make or break 2 Canadian guys that were trying to put themselves on the U.S. indie scene. Remember walking up to Jay that afternoon before our match and asking what he wanted to do. Never had met him before, first interaction we'd ever had, and he heard my question, looked at me with a huge smile across his face, said, well, shit, man, let's go out there and fucking kill it. So we did. We did that night, and we did many times after that. Each match I had with the Briscoes stands out in my memory among the thousands of matches I've had in my career because working with the Briscoes was special every single time. Having the honor of being in the ring with Jay and his entire family as they celebrated after he beat me for the Ring of Honor title is my favorite moment in my independent career, bar none. It was special for all of them. The crowd there that night, for everyone in the locker room, and for me because Jay was special. I didn't get to see him much after I went to WWE. In fact, I think we only saw each other once, but it was like no time had passed at all. He came to WWE House Show, and of course, he had his whole family with him. He was so excited and proud to tell me everything about his kids and what his wife were up to and how great they were doing. He loved his family with everything he had, and it was amazing to see them all. Kevin Owens.
God, like that's the problem. Like you remember when God, I'm not sure if I should call him by his WWE or his AEW name. Brody Lee. I guess I'll go with his AEW name. When Brody Lee passed, and then you hear about everybody in their lives like, well, God Almighty. Now I also have to hear about how he was the best fucking person since Mother Teresa, about like how great father, caring, dedicated father, like uses left and right turn signals, donates to his local animal shelter, walks little old ladies across the street, is a volunteer with the Boy Scouts, like all like, and you just hear about like, my God Almighty, and then so it's always really hard to hear about this because like we're used to the wrestling characters in the 70s and 80s who always had personal demons that they always had to go battle, and now we've got good people in the industry.
Interesting note bringing up Brody Lee. The final two matches of both Jay Briscoe and Brody Lee, like their big stage matches, were both dog collar matches.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah. Briscoe's against FTR and Brody Lee against Cody Rhodes. Dog collar matches.
Wow. And then remember Daniel Bryan versus The Fiend? Strap match? Then how much longer did it take for The Fiend to get buried?
Yeah.
So like not to compare the two, but apparently we should just stop with dog collar matches in wrestling from here on out. I mean, MJF's was great. Jinxed. But even then,
CM Punk was in that match, and guess what he's doing now, Phil? So apparently, the dog collar match is a little cursed.
Wow. I mean, when you want to put it that way, like not to compare them, not to compare getting buried on TV versus your brother passing, but it's still just like, wow, okay, I had no idea. And now it's just like, now every time they do that, it's going to be something people are going to think now, whether we like it or not. Now, to put a finer point on this, I guess, Tony, what does tag team wrestling look like from here? I mean, we've lost one of the true unsung heroes.
Yeah, this is one of those, like I said, I was hoping for a main roster call up to AEW for the Briscoes because over a dozen times they held the titles in Ring of Honor. It was time. Like if they had any gas left in the tank as a team, and they did, it was time to get on the main stage. And Tony Khan had to know that in the back of his mind. And I'm praying at least that there was a portion of him that was ready and willing to do that and bring them up and have new, fresh matches with a well-deserved team in the Briscoes, and one that would have undoubtedly gotten eyeballs on the tag team division and AEW as a whole. So it definitely is. It obviously crushes Ring of Honor. Like that's such a monumental loss. It hurts AEW for sure, but tag team wrestling, like it is never going to be the same again. Like the modern current product of tag team wrestling just lost one of the fundamentally fantastic and excellent workers of that style of wrestling. It's never going to be as good as it was just a few days ago. Like it's going to take monumental gaps being filled by some pretty stellar talent, and I don't know that it's out there right now. Not in the current format that the Briscoes were capable of performing under, because like I said, they understood the rules, they understood the psychology, and they were just such a well-oiled machine. And you could put them in there with almost any other team, and they were going to make that team look that much better. So it's such a tremendous loss for that genre of wrestling.
I think that would be something that you of all people would probably be able to put together better than most is the best Jay Briscoe matches, whether that be, top 10, top 5, or just your three favorites, whatever. Like that would be a video you of all people would be able to really put together. For me, it was all tag team matches. I never saw him versus Kevin Owens. It just
I
never
caught
happened.
highlights of that title win that Kevin Owens was match, and yeah, it was like you can look at like that style of wrestling that Kevin Owens was doing on the independent scene, and you can think of Jay Briscoe and see why that would make perfect sense, like why those two would be able to mesh so well together. Because Kevin Owens, with his frame, dumping himself on his head so willingly without breaking his neck, and Jay having such just a wild approach to offensive maneuvers, like it fits so well together. You can picture that in your head, and that's the unfortunate thing. And he was able to translate tag team wrestling into singles wrestling, and that's the other thing that proves that he was a fantastic wrestler overall, not just as a team unit.
Oh, God Almighty, Jay Briscoe, may you rest in peace, sir. Tony, do you have a glass of libation?
Indeed.
Raise your glass to you, sir. May your family find peace and blessing in this time. May we all find peace and blessing in this time. Folks, these unfortunate events always remind us of our own mortality. And, hey, it's one of those things, just make yourself right with your maker, I suppose. That's the best you can do. Tony, one thing I want to get into here tonight was our argument over what was the tag team match of the year. Now, before I get into that, because you're a man of many children, is there anything you'd like to say to the people?
I like I said, this is such a there's a piece missing from the wrestling industry now, and it's going to take a while for that wound to heal.
Yeah, prime of his life.
And yeah, it's such a shame to pass in the way he did, to have other members of his family hurt. You hate to see it happen, no matter what, but just the circumstances. It's such a unfortunate, untimely thing. I guess the only thing I can say is if you haven't seen any or much Jay Briscoe in the past, indulge yourself now because it's available out there. I mean, you can find the content, and you'll see why he was such a special pillar of the community of tag team wrestling, of independent wrestling, of Ring of Honor, and many of the other promotions that I listed off earlier. But indulge yourself in some Jay Briscoe and Briscoe Brothers matches because it's worth the watch. He's very, very talented. And yeah, I give the best to his family, and I hope that Mark Briscoe at least has a bit of a flame left for the business now because, like you said, this is gonna be hard for him to overcome, and I hope he does. I hope he returns the ring, and I hope because I think Jay would want that too. So I hope he comes back and he can carry on the legacy of one of the true unsung hero teams of tag team wrestling.
Tony, thank you this evening for all these kind thoughts. Now, folks, don't you worry. Don't touch that dial because we got plenty more coming for you. Plenty more Jay Briscoe tributes. But yeah, this one hits different. This one hurts. This is like Brody Lee in that it's a guy in the prime of his life. Like it's one thing when like when Vern Gagne died, that was bad. Don't get me wrong, we were all sad, but he was a man in his 80s who was ready to meet the Lord. Okay, like that's one thing. But this is man the prime of his life, and it's just it's awful. So, well, folks, T, is there anything else you'd like to say to the folks?
No. If you've got our discussion from the 2022 best of year in review, by all means, get right into it.
I shall, sir. Give me just a second here. Oh, whoops. I need to actually share screen that. That would actually help if I was
That would
prepared
help.
for such a thing.
Who prepares?
Oh, not me.
Just go wild. Just go spontaneous. Just like Jay would in the ring.
Well done, T. Well done. Well done. Well, folks, here we are with our closing up with our worst wrestler of the year discussion.
Boom, Ronda wins it.
Jesus Christ. No. Sonny might have been the worst wrestling personality of
Weirdly
the year.
enough, that's what we were talking
Folks,
about. This is actually how legislation gets
God.
made in the House and Senate.
Oh, it's not tag team matches
This is
either.
actually how it works, as much as I hate to say.
I refuse to go to that side. I'll fucking go this way.
I mean,
Yep.
just because Ronda was involved with some of Shotzi's absolute worst, yeah, I'll go with Ronda because she's
Ronda's
made nobody
terrible.
look good. Every match she's had has been
Hey,
bad.
Trey with the cops. Nope.
Oh my
All right.
God.
So
All Phil's nominations are like tongue-in-cheek jokes. You're fucking asshole.
I think we need to do tag team match.
Yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
do
Because I
tag
know
team
Phil
match.
didn't watch these. Because I think I know what Tony's gonna pick, and I think I know what I'm gonna pick.
no, I actually watched this one on YouTube not too terribly long ago, actually over the holiday season. And my pick is Tony. You're finally gonna like one of my picks.
Oh, thank Christ.
It's going to be the Briscoes versus FTR tag team dog collar match that they just did in December.
Okay.
To me, that's like what I imagine if you could bring Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard just back and just pop them
Exactly.
into a ring
Jesus,
now,
yes.
and then have them wrestle another Arn Anderson and another Tully Blanchard, but with more furry hair on their heads,
Okay.
and then put dog collars on them. That would be the kind of match. Like, so yeah, it was one where it just held my attention, and I just was able to kind of chill out, relax, drink a dram of William LaRue Weller here, and just enjoy the match. Like, my kiddo was pacing around listening to stuff on her earphones. I was on my laptop here watching it and had a good time. So yeah, that was definitely a worthwhile match to me, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm having a hard time thinking of a tag team match that stood out more in my mind. Like I'm sure like recency bias has something to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But I really struggled to like comb over my mind of what's one individual tag team match that stood out to me more, and I had a very hard time picking out one that didn't involve the Usos. You know what I mean?
will say this before I let Chicken say anything. 2022 overall for tag team wrestling was really very lopsided in terms of quality.
AEW was great for tag matches.
Oh yeah.
If you look in like,
Well,
Wonder
they
Woman.
have the best tag teams. They
Yeah,
didn't always put on the best matches.
Chicken, I'm going to let you go next before I make
Swerve and Our Glory had a pretty good match earlier this year.
Yeah, they did. I'm gonna go FTR and Briscoes as well, but it's gonna be the one from Ring of Honor in July.
Was that the second or the first? God, I can't remember.
I think that's
pretty
the
sure
second
that was
one.
the second one.
Because I think the first one was the end of last year.
Briscoes 2 was July. Yep. So
Yeah,
you're
'cause I
going with
think-
FTR Briscoes 2.
Wasn't Briscoe's one about this time last year?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was
early on.
December.
Yeah,
No,
it's
it
like
was-
really
it was-
early. Or it
I
was
think it was
like, yeah,
December 2021. I looked it
No.
up because that one was a contender for me as well. But yeah, that one was the year prior.
No, it would have been. It was April. April was one.
okay.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. Let me see. Let's go.
The Briscoes.
And then July was the second one. April, July, and then December. April, July, December. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, to me there might be some recency bias for me, but I'm going with Briscoe's FTR in December for their double dog collar match. It was just fun to watch.
And
it was
Chicken,
just
you're going with the second one, which was the rematch after FTR beat them for the ROH titles.
Yep.
Okay, before I give you my pick, I'm going to give you some runner-ups. Hear me out. Swerve and Our Glory versus the Acclaimed, where
great match.
The title should have changed hands on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, not the one where it did.
Not the one where it did, because that match sucked. The one where it should have, where the titles didn't change hand. The crowd was only that hot one more time that year, and it was Drew versus Roman at Clash at the Castle. The crowd was so fucking amped up, and they actually held everybody's attention, and they did such a good job feeding off each other, and the false finishes actually meant something. That was a great fucking match.
Do you suppose Keith Lee and Adam Cole are happy they didn't get out of their contracts right now?
Moving along. FTR versus the Bucks 2. This is hands down, for me, the best Bucks match I've ever seen. Their first match, it was pretty good. The rematch on Dynamite, this was an actual tag team match. The Bucks actually succumbed to real tag team wrestling. They played psychology, hot tags, fucking establishing the rules and obeying them. It was a real tag team match. It was a great match. The Bucks' best match ever. And then the Usos versus Street Profits at Money in the Bank. Not the rematch. The rematch was very underwhelming. The first one, well overperformed. This one was fantastic, and it was probably my
But enough about Montez Ford.
It was one of, yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that was one of my favorite matches, tag team matches of the year, if not one of my favorite matches of the year. But my ultimate pick for tag team match of the year has got to be the Briscoes versus FTR 1. So that means that we're kind of at a standstill here, folks, but I'm going to allow it for this because that would mean that the tag team match
doesn't matter. It's FTR's versus Briscoes.
FTR versus the Briscoes, the trilogy. There's no
goddamn.
There's nothing even remotely close that has touched tag team wrestling in terms of real wrestling psychology.
I could maybe be swayed to the match in July, but let's just keep it as is.
What about Briscoes versus what was it, Aussie Open? That was a really good one too.
I'm going to get to some of FTR's
Didn't FTR take on the Aussie Open too?
Yes, they did.
That's what I was talking about.
No, I thought you said the Briscoes took on Aussie
did.
Open.
Well, I might have.
Which I'd like to see that too.
I just hope that the TBS higher-ups can get over whatever hump bullshit they have. And I think that's a cover-up anyway, because the Elite doesn't want the Briscoes on TV because, well, then that might not mean that they go down another fucking thing.
How long was Mike Tyson? How long was Mike Tyson in prison? They let him in AEW.
Exactly.
There's been worse folks like that. They had the one guy cutting up Chris Jericho, or no, Dean Ambrose.
There's been way worse people.
The bank addicted drug robber. So yeah, like you've had worse people on your show. So the Briscoes trilogy. That's fair.
It was so.
I like it.
You can't look at another tag team match like. These guys have been wanting to do this series of matches for a long, long time. And kudos to Tony Khan for at least giving them a platform. Granted, it was on the fucking C show, Ring of Honor. This should have been, if they would have put this on AEW pay-per-view, this would have made their year in pay-per-view. But no. They threw this stuff away.
These matches were so unpromoted. All four of these men could have been in the witness protection program and still been safe.
And the worst part, the dog collar match, they didn't announce that until the fucking week of. And it still sold the pay-per-view.
Like 72 hours before the fucking pay-per-view.
Which is disgusting because all four of these guys poured their heart and soul into this trilogy. There's not been a better tag team feud since, dare I say, the New Day Usos, when both teams were at their high point before the Usos have been on their current run. The Uso run with New Day, that's the only thing that comes even remotely close to this. And even this is better in my opinion.
God, yeah, the Uso New Day feud was the only feud that really kind of really captivated me during the heavy PG era.
Yeah.
Like they were the only ones that made the heavy PG wrestling seemingly work.
And they actually found a way to make a Hell in a Cell match different and actually feel like a good Hell in a Cell match. Because usually it's just it's copy paste, cookie cutter. But they found ways to make it different because it was a tag team match. They found a way to make it different. And those teams are both still around. But the fact that FTR and the Briscoes wanted to do this series of matches for so long, and they finally got to do it, and it was just as good as we'd hoped. So this was so fucking awesome for me. I was so glad that this happened, and I hope it's not over, honestly. Though if it is, like, it was perfect. It should have happened in AEW, but I digress. So
AEW kind of shit the bed with FTR.
Oh, like more on that later.
Yeah. Well, mostly because the Young Bucks didn't want to get shown up, and also whenever they're in the ring with the Young Bucks, FTR makes them look like small children.
More on that later.
All
right, let's move on.
Tony's got a lot to say later. Oh no.
Well, there's not a lot of categories left,
folks, and that was the match of the year for tag team wrestling. All 3 times that FTR and the Briscoes met in the ring. Little did we know how special that was going to be. So, folks, as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining us here at the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast, the KOE Nation, Big Buck and Empire. I hope all of you make it back here happy, healthy, much the wiser. And also a toast to Jay Briscoe and all of your family. God bless. May the travel of your soul be quick and easy. And God bless all of you. Folks, be good to you and yours. Catch you on the flip side.